You're listening to someone express their perspectives and views, which is a more gentle way of being exposed to some of these things.
For me, sometimes, when I'm out on a walk, that's just what I need for those 45 minutes to an hour to forget about that to-do list.
45 minutes of listening to the same topic, I find, is a lot more therapeutic.
Other people's way of thinking, what got them from point A to point B, what makes them who they are today.
For a lot of people, when the question of, okay, what do you read is asked, saying I read fiction is whatever. But then if I say I read Jeffrey Archer, suddenly I'm in a different league.
We talk a lot about careers, the curviness of it, the messiness of it, and the joy of it. But where do we get our inspiration, our little notes, that would be a nice person to talk to? Can we find someone like that? Well, for Hasita and me, it's the world of podcasts. And we invite you, yes, we see the irony, you're listening to us on a podcast, but we invite you to dive deeper into this world because there's just so much to be had, and it fills us with just a lot of hope, a lot of learning, and just a lot of just space to be in someone else's head as they are forming their thoughts, right? So you're one more person in the room, getting to enjoy a conversation, and trust me, it really sometimes just feels like family, even if it's true crime.
Especially for Subha if it's true crime.
Welcome to Small Talk Work Play Build. I'm Subha Chandrasekharan, leadership and career growth coach.
And I'm Hasita. I'm a brand consultant and co-founder at Motley Crue.
So I think it's nice to kind of take a little bit of a detour from, the workplace and the men and the women and the careers and all of that, but talk about another set of, friends who are like family, so to speak, because we listen to them so often.
Yeah.
More than family sometimes. Yeah. And they're a great way to tune out family.
Oh, yeah.
If you have your earpods on. But jokes apart, I think both of us just wanted to share.
Yeah. I don't love for long format more than anything,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. And as you were saying, Dito, I realized this is my side quest outfit. The last time I wore it, also we were talking about something completely unrelated. So good. And this is an episode for thinking thoughts because I was also thinking of actors on actors. And this is a podcast on podcasts.
Okay, so we're going meta. So tell me, what do you think is your biggest win from, being in a world of podcasts in your head?
From listening, you mean?
Yeah.
So I think before we even get there, for me, it's not only podcasts. Like I listen to a lot of lectures by professors on various subjects. Like that's my rabbit hole. And air crash investigations. That's the other
Seriously?
one. Yeah. So it makes no sense. It makes
so these are YouTube videos.
These are YouTube videos. Right?
Do you watch them or listen? Because I listen to a lot of YouTube.
Oh, I have to watch. Otherwise, I'm lost.
I can't watch.
Yeah. I mean, our own podcast, I would not be listening to if I couldn't watch us do something. I'm sorry, it's true. Yeah, it's a whole body thing for me because I can't very easily tune out. I mean, the minute someone says something, to me, there's a task in my mind that's added. So that's just how my mind functions. So to listen to someone talk, then I'm like, oh, I have to read that book. Oh, I have to do this. Versus watching somehow feels like something I can do more passively. I think why I listen to air crash investigations, God alone knows. But there is a certain logic to how they unpack it, which is very similar to true crime, I presume, which is that logic is explained. Yeah. But the lectures part of it is honestly because I like listening to people who have 30, 40 years of experience in something talk to me like I'm the idiot that I am. Like it's a very for dummies version of a topic. I really like listening to those.
Nice. I think for me, it's the, I don't know, access seems like a very strong word, but just the exposure to other people's way of thinking, what got them from point A to point B, what makes them who they are today. and this probably started from like the early days of Twitter, that access piece of it, right? Because all the other platforms were about connecting with people you already know, classmates you were hiding from, and all of that. But Twitter was, where genuinely we all made connections, which have lasted many years, even though the platform hasn't. But that kind of resurfaced with podcasts. Though the first one that got many of us hooked was Serial, which was a following a true crime story and told very well. So it also gave us this notion that about how well stories can be told. Right? And then to have this access, I mean, in which world do I get to hear Shonda Rhimes talk about her imposter syndrome, or Michelle Obama and talk about her marriage, or experts in their field over years, they've studied ADHD or narcissism, or recently someone about how cults behave, etc. And on topics which you would otherwise, if you told me to go and listen to maybe like an F1 podcast, I'm not really into that sport. I wouldn't. But listening to Toto Wolff, who is, who was the CEO of Mercedes, very, very huge in the F1 world, but listening to him having a very natural conversation about who he is, the decisions he took, him as a leader, him as a husband, so many things. I mean, I don't know, like, how can you not listen?
And I was just saying, like, I was about to say, I don't know the first thing about F1, but that's an extrapolation because I may not know the third thing about F1. Let's put it that way. Because the first two I know from watching Formula One Drive to Survive on Netflix, right? Like, in general, also docuseries, which follow a similar format as podcasts. I like being able to explore a world with very low stakes. Like, I'm not then expected to follow the career trajectory. In some ways, it's also information pre-digested and available to me to some extent. And I'm not going to deny the joy of just discovering things that way.
Yeah. And I think another aspect is the intimacy of it all. And because I listen more than I watch, during my walks and during my household chores, and when I'm sitting in my garden, they're in my ear. And they're now, when you start following podcasts over a period of time, they're voices you recognize. And interestingly, you also start to recognize their moods through those voices, right? When do they sound tired? When do they sound excited? When do they sound anxious?
When do they sound promotional? Honestly, some of them may just have come to promote that one book or that movie or whatever.
And even the hosts, they have to tell you, like, please
listen,
subscribe. It's part of the gig. It's part of the gig, but there's a kind of a heightened intimacy in that, as though you know them, and their curiosity as hosts helps you be a little bit more, at least me be a little bit more curious.
And funnily, I mean, as much as we talk about podcasts as published media, I was just thinking, like, I have a mini podcast running in the back of our car every time we come home after watching a movie. Because both my husband and child are huge movie buffs, and they have to dissect every song and every decision and every creative output. I think that format of thinking also, there's some joy in it. Even just as the listener, you realize that someone else may be thinking completely different things from whatever you are at that point in time.
Correct. Very true. Like, I think it helps you listen to contrarian views a little more easily.
Which God knows we need more of.
Correct. So while I will listen to, let's say, The Pivot with Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway, I mean, she is a tech journalist with, crazy credentials and access to tech folks. He's an NYU professor, investor, etc. So their perspective on what's happening largely in the US, but also globally. So political, news, information, views. But at the same time, sometimes I will choose to then go listen to, while Rachel Maddow is probably a similar category, but also then go listen to a Joe Rogan. Right? Like, not every episode, but even if you catch it once in a while, you get that contrarian view.
Correct.
Without disturbing yourself too much.
Because there is nuance to it. You're not being told things. You're listening to someone express their perspectives and views, which is a more gentle way of I don't know, being exposed to some of these things.
And I think it also, there's an element of choice. Like, it feels like I have more agency than just following somebody on an Instagram.
Right.
Because then the algorithm chooses when it will show me what they want to say. But here, I get to choose whether this week I'm in the mood for US politics at all.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not.
Yeah, fair.
Maybe I want to just listen to, some kind of, comedy comedian and his show.
And it's interesting because whenever we think about the programmatic nature of, do we want to publish once a week or once in 2 weeks, I think we always keep saying the algorithm, but we forget that people also form habits. Like on a Friday evening, I'm expecting that episode of Grey's Anatomy to be available to me. It bugs me to no end when they go on these random breaks with no notice given to the rest of us.
You're being heavily judged, but that's okay because I watch too. I mean, we are loyal people.
Yeah, that's true. 22 seasons. Yeah. And God knows if they make 20 more, you and I are definitely watching.
I mean, they need continuity
from us.
And what's interesting about your, air crashes and the professors, the rabbit hole.
Are they the same thing? I still have no clue.
No,
maybe they are.
But the sheer rabbit hole that you get to take your mind into, I think it's the equivalent today of, I don't know, strangely, of boredom. Like, we don't know how to be totally bored. Like, we don't know how to do nothing. But the rabbit hole of a topic which you knew nothing about 5 seconds earlier, that takes you like on this little flow journey that's very, I don't know, I feel it's very cleansing for the head.
Yeah, because for one, you're able to focus on one thing for an extended period of time. Because how many times do we just wake up with checklists in our head and then I have to actively call myself out and say, no, you have half an hour before you get to this. Versus, I don't know, 45 minutes of listening to the same topic I find is a lot more therapeutic. And I was also thinking that there's one episode of a certain plane crash where I learned a lot about the nuances of communication. Literally, that plane crashed because two people from two cultures couldn't figure out how to communicate with each other. And can you imagine, like, the stakes can be that high?
Yeah. No, I mean, I listen to true crime, that is true. But I listen to...
You were just dying to crack that joke.
I listen to a comedy version of it.
Okay.
So, Small Town Murder is two comedians who, like they say, they make fun of how that, somebody thought they could get away with that. Right? And how the cops bungled or how, something went crazily wrong. So, it's not in that, the sense of, a deep, dark voice taking you through a crime, but it's like really, really hilarious. And for me, sometimes, like, when I'm out on a walk, that's just what I need for those 45 minutes to an hour to forget about that to-do list.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking that Small Town Murder should just send you a hamper at this point, because 5 years ago also you were talking about them and now also you're talking about them. So I think just
and they're
send her that hamper already.
And they're on Netflix now, by the way.
So they've grown thanks to loyal listenership from ma'am here, but please send her something in return.
Yeah. But there are a lot of people who still say, like, oh, I don't listen to podcasts. And I really wonder, like, why? Give it a try.
Yeah. Or we have also on the other end, when you ask someone, I think also because sometimes these things are seen as social currency, right? Like, I think for a lot of people, when the question of, okay, what do you read is asked, saying I read fiction is whatever. But then if I say I read Jeffrey Archer, suddenly I'm in a different league. So I think some of these are just social capital also to throw names around, saying I listen to such and such. You may have heard one trailer.
Correct.
But it's okay to go and discover your own niche interests, and there's a podcast for everything, as we know.
That is true. That is true. What was that crazy one?
Who shat on the floor at my wedding?
Sorry.
That's another true crime podcast.
That was diabolical.
I'm sorry, but it's true.
No, but you're right. Like, even if you look at it from categories, like, I don't know, the sheer range that you can just get from the medium makes it something that you can just try out.
Yeah.
Right? Like self-help or health or fiction, politics, business, whatever it is. even let's say some folks who it has exposed us, or it's told us about so many people, like Cal Newport. He was famous first with his books.
Yeah.
But I probably started reading his books because of the podcast, right? But the podcast allowed me to get a flavor of him.
Yeah.
And say, yeah, I wouldn't mind reading the book too. But you
Yeah.
can't like get a flavor of a book, right?
True, because also on the other side, for us, we were just discussing it this morning that the camera cannot lie. I mean, the mic and all of they bring so much nuance. It's almost as if the person themselves is
Correct.
in the room with us.
Correct.
And we can just passively listen without feeling the burden of being present, asking
Yeah.
a question. Listen to 10 minutes of it, you've still taken
Yeah.
something away.
Yeah. And, I think for us now that we are in this medium also, there's just so much to imbibe. Like the way like a Trevor Noah brings his best friend.
Yeah.
And so that's the conversation. Like it's okay that the best friend doesn't know the guest.
Yeah.
And it's okay that that best friend doesn't really know something that they're talking about. But it's still, that's how real life is. Right? When we sat down with Dr. Anuradha Vikrant and Parashunath, there's only so much that we knew about classical dance or its history or some of the nuances. But that's fine. It's a conversation that you would have even if you sat with them in your house.
Yeah, and funnily, as you say that, I was just thinking that even the people that I entertain at home, I'm able to let them have their space to say what they want. Because recently we had a guest over who is a professor at one of the IIMs and has worked extensively in sociology before. And he's got certain strong opinions about politics, which I'm sure may not feel welcome in a lot of places because nobody wants to discuss politics at dinner and things. And he was so apologetic about it. He said, just to finish that train of thought. And I told him it's okay. I mean, you don't have to finish that train of thought just because you started it, but please talk about it. We do want to know, and we want to welcome all thoughts and expressions, which I think I'm probably taking from here as well.
Yeah. And I think both of us, we die for that kind of emotional depth.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Maya Shankar and Slight Change of Plans, just to hear, I mean, we didn't know her from Adam, but to hear how her life changed from being a musician to a professor now, etc. Discovering that her father's science lectures are something that you listen to, or the stories of women from Julia Louis-Dreyfus and her Wiser Than Me. I think the women who come on that podcast and the vulnerability, the sharing of their past life, the ups and the downs, right? Armchair Expert and the Dak Shepard and Monica, I think what there are those who like it, there are those who don't, but what everybody will say is that they're able to have a conversation about the difficult things, about addiction, about trauma, about dysfunctional families, whatever that, but in such an accessible way to the rest of us.
And I think that's a very big aspect, which is the permissions given and permissions granted. We have looked everywhere for those. It's not always been easy to be in some form or format on the fringe of some mainstream. But to then discover that there are others who have gone through something similar or who identify similarly, I think it makes a lot of difference. I mean, just take neurodivergence as an example, right? Today we have so much more permission, and the word itself is a lot softer than any diagnosis. And I think that has been made possible by a lot of experts coming out and saying, it's true, it happens, it's there in all of us. We are all, designed very differently. So those permissions, yes. And I was also thinking of the conversation we had with Dr. Chaitanya Sridhar, where when she talks about her tribe of elephants, I think it really moved me because, there is something very nuanced about sharing space with creatures that transcend space and time, and to know that someone else has had that experience is just very touching.
And the ability to have a conversation with that person
on that subject, which is not,
so freely. And looking back at so many of the conversations we've had this year, even we both love kind of meeting the person behind the thing we loved, right? Like we love somebody's book, but speaking to that author, right? Like, so speaking to Harini Nagendra, I mean, like, and that too, in that context of, for us, let's say work play build, her fiction is her play.
Yeah.
But to be able to have a conversation about where
About
that
the
character came
character.
from, what it does for her, and so many other authors who we hope to speak to in.
And I will say, I mean, we've always felt so welcomed by the guests as well. I mean, it's
that's
one
true.
thing for us to have them here, but also for them to open up so
Yeah.
much and to share so generously. I will still say they didn't have to.
Yeah.
But they did, and that made a huge difference. I think every single guest episode we've ever done, we come out of it deeply moved.
Very true. Very true. So, I mean, if this isn't a plug for podcasts, I don't know what is. So,
Even it's not even a plug, no. I
I
think that's
know.
what. And also, how much have they come into pop culture and mainstream? I was thinking only Murders in the Building.
Correct.
I was thinking of Kristen Bell and Adam Brody's
Nobody
Wants This, right? Where she's literally a very successful podcaster with her
Correct.
sister. The number of times me, my sister, my friends have discussed the idea of doing side quest podcasts, where we just record anonymous episodes and we put it out there. I think
What was the other one? Two Drunk Girls.
Drunk Girls podcast or Drunk Girls Pod. It's still going to happen, guys. I'm very relentless when it comes to these things. Consider yourself warned.
Yeah. No, I mean, how long this will last, etc. There might be some new shiny object that comes which is similar and gives us the same joy and satisfaction. But for now, I just it almost feels like so much to listen to so little time. Which is the same as books, right? Like we it's not like we've left one medium to do this.
Correct.
We still read and we still definitely do watch and we binge and all that. But I think this medium and the kind of shows available today and the kind of content being produced, there's just such a range of really, really talented people, across topics. I just love it.
Yeah. So I think that's about our love for rabbit holes more than anything else. And podcast, of course, is one major medium which we clearly enjoy and we are part of as well. And we are very happy to be, I don't know, in some way identify as an ecosystem of people creating them as well. I think there's a lot of joy and satisfaction we get out of that. Should you start a podcast? If you do want to and you have questions, please drop them in the comments below and we'll be more than happy to answer. Until then, we see you next time.
Bye.
So in early 2000s, Randy Pausch delivers his last lecture at Carnegie Mellon University. 2 decades later, on a plane either to or from one exotic location or the other, I'm sitting and I'm listening to a teacher give me permission on not just living my dreams, but achieving them. And my recommendation for today is Professor Randy Pausch's last lecture on YouTube. The funny thing is I always end up falling asleep at the 40-minute mark, as students do. And recently I thought, okay, let me sit and finish it. But then I realized I don't want to, because then he would have actually finished delivering his last lecture and I never want that.
My read, watch, listen reco for today is a watch. It's a show that's relatively new, a few episodes in. So see if you like it. It's called Rooster and it's called Steve Carell. He's a professor. His daughter's a professor. And there's crazy mayhem in the university. She burns down a house. I won't say more, but it's fun. So maybe check out Rooster on Disney Hotstar.